Hey, everybody. Welcome to Dad's Den on October 26th, 2025. We are in the home stretch for Halloween. Friday? Friday. And Nevada Day. I know it doesn't mean anything to the rest of the country, but Nevada Day means a lot to those of us who grew up here in Nevada, because it's the day, celebrating our admission into the United States of America. And it meant we always got Halloween off of school in the old days. And then they went and changed it so that it was, I don't know what it is, like the Friday before Halloween. I think this Friday, though, it is actually on Halloween again. So hope everybody out there in YouTube land is doing good. Got a few things to chat about in our show today, although it does feel like a sort of a weird mishmash. I got all sorts of stuff on my little script that I'm looking at, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like there's a through line through any of it. It was kind of hard to come up with like the show description, because there's just like all these little disparate parts. Anyhow, but we're here. At least I'm here. And Lady Wendelin is here. I don't know if anybody else is here. I have no idea. OBS, I don't see like what the stats are or anything like that for who might be watching. But that's okay. We just move ahead. Let's get started with, sadly, rest in peace to June Lockhart. Born 1925, died 2025. She did make it to 100 years old. An actress from the good old days. Her parents were actors. Gene Lockhart, a lot of people know from Miracle on 34th Street. He plays the judge in that. He and his wife were both in an early 30s version of Christmas Carol, which she was in, playing their daughter. And I did read that she was one of the last actors alive who had been in a movie from the 1930s. So she went on to do a lot of other stuff. Meet Me in St. Louis. It's a good movie, by the way. Really is. She-Wolf of London, which I just happened to have reviewed last week. She was in a couple episodes of Have Gun Will Travel as a love interest for Paladin. She was in Lassie, very famously. 200 episodes, I think it was. I just saw Lost in Space, which that picture's from. Petticoat Junction. She did some General Hospital. She did an episode of Babylon 5, which I've actually seen. She did a voice on Ren and Stimpy. And, of course, she was in the classic Chud 2, Bud the Chud. Yeah, working actors. They're in whatever they got to be in. Great story about her, because she always seemed to be just, I don't know. She always seemed to be very, very cool. Oh, wow. So what Lady Wendelin says, she saw a post from Huey Lewis that she was an early supporter of his band. That is very cool. It's a great, Huey Lewis and the News is a great bar band. They just are. I love them. Anyhow, so she's always seemed to be a very cool person, a very real person, very authentic person to me, despite kind of growing up in Hollywood. And so a story that I thought was funny, Lost in Space, is one of their final episodes involved the Carrot Man. I think everybody who knows this show has probably seen images of it, at least, even if they haven't seen the episode. And she and Guy Williams, famous as Zorro, and by the way, he's in a movie I'm going to be reviewing this week. She and Guy Williams they just thought it looked ridiculous. And they were joking about it on set, and they wouldn't stop joking about it on set, which, was kind of rough on the actor in the carrot suit, to be honest with you. And it annoyed like the director, producers, whoever. And they let him know, you keep this up and you're going to get suspended for an episode. And they didn't care. they didn't care, because it was just so ridiculous. And these are people who had, they had survived a few seasons of Lost in Space, which was usually pretty ridiculous when you get right down to it. And they were in fact suspended for an episode. I have a feeling though they were getting towards the end and they knew it, so they just didn't care. It was just so silly. Awesome lady. Oh, of course, also her daughter, Anne Lockhart, an actress. They look very, very, very similar. She played Sheba on Battlestar Galactica for all of us retro nerds out there. So very sad to see her go, but 100 years, I mean, you don't get much better a run than 100 years, honestly. So what else do we got this week? Things that caught my eye. I thought this was kind of interesting. Tubi's head of acquisition announced that Looney Tunes has become one of their top 10 streamed series. Okay, sure. I mean, Looney Tunes, they're famous. I mean, you think about the fact that this is comedy largely from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Hey, Mr. Sushi Hut. Hello, sir. I mean, this is old stuff. Comedy from that era in this day and age doesn't get a lot of attention. Really. Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, Looney Tunes. I mean, even the Marx Brothers are not as well known as they were. They had sort of an explosion of popularity in the 60s and 70s. But, you know, I mean, most people, there are a lot of people who wear Groucho nose and mustache glasses and don't know who the hell that is. They have no idea. So these are old comedies and they have managed to stay popular. And what I thought was really interesting was it is popular amongst all age categories. So it's cutting across generations. So even the young people are enjoying these cartoons. And I gotta say, I've been watching them and I started with the oldest ones. There are certainly ones that are not on there. There just aren't, and there aren't going to be, you know. What is the one? Coal Black and the Seven Dwarves is not going to be on Tubi. And I accept that, you know. Although some people will tell you that it actually is not what a lot of people think it is. I've never seen it. I couldn't say one way or the other. So, but there's a lot of bits in these that would oftentimes be censored that are not. They seem to be, at least from what I can see, uncut. These are the originals. Good stuff, and the fact that a lot of people are enjoying them is really great. And I guess Tubi's going to try to keep a hold of them for as many years as they can because they're doing so well on the platform. I think also it's nice. They're done in these little 3 cartoon segments. So you can call it an episode, but there's no like intro, outro stuff. It's just 3 cartoons put together. I think that it's good for sort of just like you got a few minutes, you know, in between things or what have you. You could throw some Looney Tunes on, and it's, you know, it's good stuff. It's fun, and it shows you like as much as they like to tell you that the old stuff, it's too old. Quality will tell. Quality will tell. These are quality cartoons. The Fleischer stuff is kind of getting a little bit more known. Quality cartoons. It's amazing how Disney sort of abandons a lot of their older material, even though it's of higher quality than their new material. Don't count the old stuff out. Don't count the old stuff out, man. Quality will tell. And I think that's the story there with that. So, but I did like to see that, and I'm kind of glad because sometimes stuff shows up on Tubi and you're kind of like, okay, I got to watch this stuff relatively quick because it could go away tomorrow for all I know. Looks like Looney Tunes, hopefully, going to be sticking around. And speaking of Warner Brothers, they are definitely up for sale now, based on the fact that they didn't know how popular Looney Tunes still were because they've canceled a couple things recently. They still don't know what they got. They still don't know how to handle DC. Not really surprising they're up for sale. They are deeply in debt. And Paramount has made 2 or 3 attempts at it that they've rejected because Zaslav wants a lot of money, which, you know, with some of the stuff they got, might be worth it. It's sort of like, hey, just imagine how valuable these properties would be if somebody who knew how to handle them was in charge of them. Could be really, really helpful for them. So, but Paramount's still going for it, and I've heard a lot of folks think they'll probably end up with it, which, as has been brought up, Nerdrotic brought this up on his channel, because that ain't really good for Hollywood, because we kind of seen this, I work in commercial real estate, and one of the things we saw, in the 2000s and the 2010s even as well, a lot of consolidation of grocery stores, right? Now, early on, it was because Walmart went into groceries and was killing everybody on prices. They could not compete with them. And so the only way they could compete was with mergers, because a bigger company can get, better pricing on the food. You can buy it in bigger quantities, which means you get a lower price, which means you can sell it for a lower price, etc. So we got a ton of mergers. And what it meant was a lot of empty grocery stores, right? Because if you have like, Vons and Albertsons merge, and you got a Vons and an Albertsons on the same corner at an intersection, different corners, but same intersection, they don't need two stores that close to each other. So one of them is going to be shuttered. And so you got a lot of empty grocery stores to this day here in Vegas, and I'm sure elsewhere too, because what are you refilling them with? That kind of a space, that big of a space, some swap meets, antique mall, things like that. But there's not a lot to replace them with. They're finally at the point where they're starting to subdivide them, which is really expensive, and they don't like to, but it's kind of like, we got to fill this space. We got to put somebody in here. We need somebody paying rent. Although in a lot of cases, the grocery stores own that actual building. Other people own other parts of the center. They own it. And they're like, no, we're keeping it empty forever. We don't care. Property taxes aren't high enough. Point of this is, when you're merging studios like this, you kind of get the same thing, and it may not be real good for the industry to have fewer and fewer and fewer studios operating in Hollywood. Although I still think what we're heading for is, I think we're heading for a crash of the major studio system. And we're going to maybe see the rise of indie studios getting more out there, not necessarily putting out huge blockbusters, but taking up more people's attention and time span in terms of entertainment via streaming, via getting some theatrical releases, via physical media, etc. I think the big studios have sort of painted themselves into a corner. Their executives are freaking terrible. They either refuse to put people in charge of projects who want to make mainstream successes or are capable of making mainstream successes. A lot of the talent in Hollywood doesn't want to do stuff for the mainstream. They want to do art films, but they want to do them with $250 million budgets. And it's crazy, man. It doesn't make sense. I think that's all coming to a close to some degree. Maybe a merger like this means they can clean house at Warner Brothers and get some people in there who know what they're doing. And that is one of the aspects of this, is the rumors are already swirling, and even Gunn seems to be aware of it, that his butt might be out at DC. And I think that's probably a good idea. He's had 3 pretty much failures at this point. Things that underperformed, that don't seem to be founding anything lasting. He's pretty much making projects for himself and for people who really dig James Gunn, which is fine, except it's not a massive audience that you need to really launch a whole giant superhero universe on film. So he might be out. I think he would have been better as just a guy who they bring in to do a few projects that are maybe the more weird projects, and put somebody who's a little more mainstream in the catbird seat, and really have somebody different in charge versus making the films. right? Because at a minimum, Gunn needs somebody above him saying, no, 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 you're not doing that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Okay, I know, ignoring the chat at the moment. Mr. Sushi Hut, I loved the Looney Tunes growing up, and I'm a millennial. God bless you, sir. Ramey Butler, hey, people. Hello, Ramey. Ramey says, guess what? Chicken butt. Someone just loaded the director's cut of Albert Pyun's Captain America on YouTube. Well, watch it fast, folks, because I have heard people talk about that it was really, really good. Now, I've seen that Captain America movie, and I was like, not great, and people have said, no, the director's cut, way friggin' better. Maybe it is. I mean, when you make the Red Skull Italian, kind of already lost me, because it's just, again, it's one of those things that they always did with comic movies, was like, we have to change something. We have to. We can't just adapt this material as is. We've got to change something, or we're going to die. And oftentimes with something just really stupid. So the Red Skull becomes an Italian, because you know how unpopular it was to go after, Nazis back in the 90s, right? They were so popular. Well, we don't want to make the bad guy what are you talking about? The ultimate bad guys. And they didn't do it. So, but hey, maybe the director's cut is awesome. It's probably worth seeing. Ramey also says, I think the studio should go back to the old studio system in the 30s and 40s. Yeah, unfortunately, there's no way on earth that's going to happen. Although, no, I don't think it would. Having actors on, a payroll, it'd probably be difficult. Look, I would be happy with them just being able to put out some good movies. I mean, some stinkers, but also some good movies, like they managed to do in the 80s, in the 90s, even into the 2000s. The 70s got a little rough because the folks who are in charge now first came into the industry and started, putting a lot of super political, bleak kind of stuff in films, which was kind of popular, but not that popular. And the 80s sort of swept some of that away. They at least became a little more subtle about how they did it than they were in the 70s. But of course, the 70s was like right as the studio system, was starting to end. It may have been the late 60s, but and even actually some of that really bleak political stuff starts in the late 60s. So you got these younger folk getting in, changing how things were done, and it didn't work out great, which is why things shifted in the 80s. But just like, I think they had a system. Oh, really? Interesting. Wouldn't allow him to be but he's the bad guy. What the heck? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's always so weird. This stuff. Well, and that's what I've heard is that Robert Downey Jr. didn't want to do the drug addiction storyline for Tony Stark because it hit too close to home. And it's like, yeah, but it's an important story. And you're actually somebody who could do it better than most actors working, or a lot of actors working. Why take the part if let's be honest, the only real major storyline of Tony Stark, like that, I mean, really was a major storyline, because he was mostly a villain of the week. Iron Man, it was villain of the week kind of stuff. And it was fun, right? But the one time they got really into a deep storyline that had repercussions that went for a lot of years was Demon in the Bottle, right? Was the whole alcoholism storyline. Now, if that's a center point to a character and you absolutely don't want to do it, don't play the character. And I'm not saying, obviously he did a great job playing Tony Stark, a little bit different than the comic book character, but it was very engaging, and a huge part of why the MCU worked at all was Robert Downey Jr. But weird to not want to do that, Raimi says, with the actors, etc., on fixed pace would be more apt to. Yeah, and they would. It was a great system for doing that, but I don't think they could resurrect it that easily with unions and with everything else involved. I think it would be really tough. I would just be happy to have a system whereby a script gets floated around Hollywood for sometimes a long, long time. I mean, Interview with the Vampire, I think, was floating around Hollywood for about 20 years before it finally got made. I know Anne Rice wanted Rutger Hauer I almost said Lestrade. Lestrade is from Ravenloft. My wife is on here. She'll tell me what the name of that character is. But anyway, he wanted him in that Tom Cruise role, I believe. And you go, but Rutger Hauer is kind of old for that role. Well, he wasn't old for that role in the 70s when they were first floating it. It floated around forever, went through many, 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 many revisions. Eventually, you got a script that the studio likes, and you attach the right people to it, and more revisions, etc. You storyboard a film, blah, 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 and then you finally make the damn thing, right? It doesn't seem they use this process anymore. Because they can do things so quickly with digital film and with computers and with everything else, they sort of decided we don't need to follow this process anymore. And they kind of got away with it a few times. That is a cycle of reality for all of us, right? We get away with stuff that we know we shouldn't do, and it becomes a habit, and then it bites us in the ass, right? For example, me eating too much. I got away with it when I was young. Didn't gain weight. Then a flip switches and you suddenly gain a lot of weight, and you're like going, but I'm not eating any differently. It's like, yeah, that's the problem. You need to eat differently now. You need to cut it out. The studios got away with doing movies in a kind of screwed up way. And now it's biting them in the ass. And instead of like going, okay, about face, let's do better, they're almost doubling down on it. Because this is, I think, the other problem. It is with personnel. It is with the people in charge. Their egos are they're ridiculous on a Hollywood scale. They cannot admit failure, and the people in charge will not fire them. They can fail over and over and over and over and over again, and they will not get fired. It is crazy. Hollywood used to be, you are as good as your last movie. You know, there was definitely a time. Now, obviously, contracts can change things, but there was a time where if Kathleen Kennedy had 2 failures, for sure, she's out. She's gone. Gunn would have been fired by now. Feige would have been fired by now. The guy in charge would have said, you screwed up 2 things in a row, you're gone. You know, and they'd go find something else to do. And they'd stay in the industry, but they'd find something else to do, and they put somebody else in charge. That was normal. You had some flops, and you'd have trouble getting work again in Hollywood, at least for a while. You kind of have to go back to the minors and work your way up to the majors again. And now it's like, no, just stick around. It's fine. It ain't going to be fine for much longer. I've seen Raimi say, Demon Ball and Armor Wars. Yeah. Major stuff with Tony Stark. Well, they do stuff out of order too. But young Rutger Hauer would have been awesome. Seems like in the 80s and 90s, trends didn't change that much. Well, the thing is, audiences don't change that much. Hence, Looney Tunes. Dude, they're doing reference humor in this to radio shows from the 40s that only old, weird, retro nerds like me actually get. And I didn't get them for most of my life until I discovered and started listening to old-time radio. There's still things that I will catch some old thing, and I'm like going, I suddenly get the reference from a Looney Tune now that I didn't get before. And yet, they're still very popular because humor, a lot of humor, if it's done well, cuts across the decades, the generations. Humans are humans. You know, you can read books from 200 years ago and get it. It's like, you know, You get the emotional stuff of what people are going through. I think I've mentioned this before. I was reading, I think it was Pride and Prejudice. Finally, I had never read that one, and I was going through a phase of just like, there's all these books that are kind of important or well known, and I never read them. So I was trying to read a lot of them, and I'm reading Pride and Prejudice, and there's a bit in there. I won't spoil it, but there's a bit in there where a character does something that's kind of shocking, you know. And I'm reading this book. Here I am. I was probably in my 40s, as a 40-year-old man reading this book, and I go, "Oh no, she didn't." Okay, it resonated because humans are humans. They don't change that much. Styles change, right? But that's not even a bad thing. Think of how well costume period dramas do, or stuff set even now in the 80s. It's fun to look at the way people dressed and things. Stranger Things, right, is built heavily upon not just that nostalgia, but, you know, my daughter and her generation listened to a lot of 80s music long before Stranger Things came along. Long before Stranger Things came along. 80s music had a huge revival for, you know, sort of the later millennials, early Zoomers, and I mean others as well, right? It goes beyond that because it's good. There's a lot of good music. To the point that my daughter probably knows the words to more 80s songs than I do at this point, you know, as my brain slowly rots away. Again, it comes down to quality, man, and it's stuff that connects with human beings. And a big problem they're having right now is they're making stuff that does not connect emotionally with human beings who are not heavily invested in identitarianism. All right? If you think of yourself as an individual, you have a hard time meshing with a lot of stuff in modern entertainment because the folks writing it and the folks in charge of so much stuff, they've bought into it 100%, although I bet they don't connect with it either, really, on an emotional level. It's just they think it's trendy and you need to do it, but it's not connecting with people in a big way. And when you have somebody like James Gunn, who is just, he's a weird dude, right? And there's always been room for weird dudes in entertainment. But again, not helming massively successful things. I mean, Tim Burton is probably, you know, the exception that proves the rule because, like, we were just watching Nightmare Before Christmas last night. And it's weird, and it's got his kind of weird humor in it, the things that he likes, and all the darkness and the grotesqueries and things like that. But what is Nightmare Before Christmas at the very end? It is a love story, you know? It is this really sweet kind of love story between Jack and Sally. Same kind of thing when you get right down to it in Corpse Bride, right? It comes down to a very human thing, which is love and finding one another, you know, and gets very, very sweet and sentimental at the end. He also, what does he throw in? Zero, and he throws in scraps. And the other one, dogs. People connect with dogs, right? I will give James Gunn that. He put in crypto, right? Which is probably one of the more popular things in the movie for a lot of people. But anyhow, there's a Greek trilogy of plays, says Mr. Sushi Hut, called Oresteia that still hits hard 2,500 years later. You are not wrong at all. A lot of the Greek plays do. I was listening to a series of podcasts on YouTube. Is it The Great Stories? It's an Orthodox priest and an Orthodox deacon. Richard Rowland is the deacon. And they're talking about, you know, various folklore, mythology, etc. And they went through the Theban cycle of plays, you know, with what's his name? For crying out loud. For crying out loud. Why can't I think of his name all of a sudden? You know, plucked his own eyes out because he slept with his mom. My brain just completely froze. I know somebody in the chat knows it because everybody knows it. It's a friggin' Freudian complex. At any rate, dude, it's of course it connects. It's just basic stuff. So at any rate, back to Warner Brothers though. They're also being courted by Comcast and Netflix But some of them kind of don't want all of what is under the Warner umbrella, i.e. CNN, I believe, is maybe one of the big things. Oedipus, thank you. Thank you. Good gravy. Yeah, so it's like 7 against Thebes, and yeah, it's a great cycle. But yeah, that's the point. Like, maybe we would have trouble connecting in some ways with cavemen 20,000 years ago. It could be that there's enough distance between people and the way we live, you know, because modern people might have trouble connecting with like the Yanomamo of the Amazon basin, because they live a somewhat kind of Stone Age sort of existence, not quite Stone Age, but hunter-gathering, etc. There may be things, but God, there are some baseline human emotions that seem to run pretty clear for the last 3,000 years. It's a pretty long time, you know. But so at any rate, it looks like, you know, it is going to sell to somebody, and but some people don't want all of it, and it'll probably end up being Paramount. They're probably going to spin off stuff that they don't want. But again, you know, the thing with like CNN, it's like, if you just reported honestly, with maybe a little bias, because there's probably always a little bit of bias there, but generally honestly about things, you'd probably be fine. You'd probably find your audience again to some degree. You know, some of this stuff is just, it's easy to tune in and watch X, Y, and Z, but people have just gotten fed up with so much of it. So there's so much of it is a personnel problem of folks who just don't want to do their damn job, and they just want to have their own way. I don't know. Crazy stuff in business, but business is crazy. I brought this up, I think, before, but I thought I'd throw it out there again. Robert E. Howard, creator of Conan the Barbarian, of Solomon Kane, etc. His house, which is used as a museum, and there's a group that, you know, takes care of it and all that good stuff. It's 110 years old. So it was built 10 years before June Lockhart was born. And it is frankly falling apart. They have done repairs to it over the years, but there are starting to be some very serious problems with the house. And it requires professional, you know, people to get in there and to keep this thing from kind of falling apart, basically. And so they've launched this thing. If you go to rehfoundation.org, you can find it. They are trying to raise $100,000. They are well short at this point. I think they're in $8,300 they've managed to raise. I'm going to make a donation for sure. But you know, it's if you're a big fan of Robert E. Howard's, you might want to throw something in there. I'm telling you right now, folks. I'm telling you right now. $5. $5. Throw $5 in. It doesn't seem like much. If you could find 20,000 people, and I bet there are 20,000 people out there, right, who love Conan and Solomon Kane and this stuff. There've got to be at least 20,000 people. If each one of them ponied up $5, you're pretty much there. Okay? Even if it doesn't seem like a lot, throw something in, help them out, get the word out for these folks, make it known, and see what we could do to, you know, preserve this, because Conan's he's a huge part of popular culture. I'm going to be talking about a couple Conan things here as we go, but just throw that out there. They're looking for donations. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be huge. Give them a few bucks. Give them $1. Give them $1. 100,000 people giving $1 each. They're there. Do you think there's 100,000 Conan the Barbarian fans on planet Earth? I bet there are. I'll bet there are. Okay, so throw something in if you can. Help them out. That would be really, really, really good. Oh yeah, throw stuff. Yeah, Ramey, to the BookTube folks. Yeah, make sure they know, because you know the thing is with the internet as it is, a lot of this stuff just doesn't get heard. and if it doesn't get heard by a loudmouth who throws it out there for everybody, it just sort of stays hidden. And, you end up finding something 20 years later and going, oh, well, I would have given some money. That's too bad. I guess the house is gone now. Can't do anything. Rami also says, I got a pretty good podcast to listen to. It's called Lords of the Spirit. It's two Orthodox Catholic priests, and they talk about myths and pop culture. Yeah, it's interesting stuff. And I will say this, the two that I listen to, it's not like, let's look at these things through an Orthodox Christian vein. They will bring that kind of stuff up here and there, but it's a lot of it's understanding, what's underneath a lot of these myths. And sometimes just, hey, a lot of people have never read this, so let's talk about it. So more people are aware of it. They don't see a huge clash. I mean, obviously, religiously, there's a clash between, the old religions and Christianity. There's major differences, but they don't see a clash in terms of the storytelling involved and people talking about the world that they observe and how people interact with each other and things like that. So it's a good one. So Lords of the Spirit, that's another one folks might want to look at. Yeah, and Mr. Sushi says that in business we have to care about what other people want and try to accommodate them. Exactly. You're selling, and they don't want to do that in Hollywood at the moment. They don't want to do it in the news. Or at least they have a big enough audience they think that they don't need to, which of course is fine. You can produce weird art for a small group of people, and if you can make a living at it, then you don't need to try to make it more popular. The fact of the matter is, though, most people can't make a living at it, or not the living they want. And so yeah, it is crazy stuff. But so there we go. Robert E. Howard's house needs some attention. Conan fans, come on, answer the call. Throw in $1, throw in $5, throw in $10. Hey, if you're out there and you can throw in $100,000, do it. They'd love it. But $1, go for it, man. Give something for those folks. Oh, and before I do this, also saw there is a rumor of a leak. No, let me see. There's a leak, not a rumor of a leak. There's a leak that Disney is restoring the Star Wars theatrical cuts of the original trilogy. So that would be, to my knowledge, not the Lucas changes, the originals. And it looks like they really are doing it. There's enough info out there that it looks like they're trying to restore the films. But there's no information that suggests they're necessarily going to be released, which is kind of crazy. Disney doing something crazy with Star Wars? No, of course not. That's unthinkable. But I'm going to tell you what, when I was sort of at the point of, I'm kind of getting sick of Star Wars because, and again, this is subjective. People have different opinions. Not trying to step on anybody. I did not like the prequels in the least. I didn't care for them. I had no interest in the sequels at all. And it was just sort of like, dude, I think I'm just generally done with Star Wars. Just kind of done with it. Like, whatever. No hard feelings. Just whatever. One day, I grab old VHS tape that I had. This is pre-George Lucas's, which, by the way, I didn't like George Lucas's changes to things either. That was kind of the first, was that before or after? I think that was before the prequels. That was the first nail in the coffin for me. I didn't care for it at all. And they only seemed to get worse over time. But I grabbed like the original Star Wars, threw it in a VCR, and sat down and watched it. I think I was probably working on something in my office. I'll put that on. And I ended up sitting and watching it. And I'm like going, man, I friggin' love Star Wars. I love the original theatrical trilogy of Star Wars. I really do. Great flicks, good nostalgic feelings about all of them. If you're getting like burned out on some of the stuff, especially all the arguing and all that, sometimes it's good to revisit those things unmessed with by people. And you realize, yeah, I really do love it. maybe I'm not part of the fandom because I don't want to talk about it all day long. I don't want to watch everything that comes out and have an opinion on it. But I am a fan of the original trilogy for real because I love the friggin' movies. I love those movies. So they're going to restore them. That would be very cool. It would be nice if they could get a release. I've heard that Lucas is dead set against it, but, you know, at a certain point, who gives a shit? No offense, but who gives a shit what Lucas thinks at a certain point? You know, no offense. You've done some damage to your creation as well. You know, you have. You split a lot of people over it, and then you sold out to Disney for Do-Re-Mi, Mr. High and Mighty Principles. So I don't really give a shit what George Lucas thinks, if I'm completely honest about stuff. But I do love his original trilogy. He did good work there, man. He did good work there. Rami, I tried to pitch a kids show to TBN. It was like Power Rangers, but it was based on American values. It's called Captain Freedom and the Justice Crew. They told me that they wouldn't do an action show for kids. That sounds good to me. I mean, a patriotic superhero. That would never sell. That would never sell. Oh, sure. Why don't we have a character called, like, I don't know, Captain America or something? Nobody's going to... Yeah. Dude, Cap is still beloved. As much damage as they've done over the years, changing things, trying to make him into like a Hydra agent or whatever that was. I don't even know the full story on that. Cap is still Cap. He's beloved. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. You know, their bigger problem probably with it is that, you know, with the original Power Rangers, they were just ripping off old Japanese film and redubbing stuff. So they're like, well, we don't have anything we could rip off to redub, so how are we going to do that? But I could definitely see something like that being like a cartoon even. It could work. Yeah, he made Ewoks. I gotta be honest, man. When I was a kid, I liked the Ewoks. I had no problem with the Ewoks. But I think if I was maybe just 2 or 3 years older, I might have. I don't know. But I liked the Ewoks. Now, the Ewok movie, yeah, I wasn't really interested in that. And I don't think I ever watched the cartoon. But I did recently watch the Droids cartoon, and I did like that. I know, yeah, you gotta watch out. My wife's she'll kick you off the chat if you're mean to Ewoks. I'm trying to think. We had an stuffed Ewok floating around somewhere. I don't think it's in my office anymore. It was her old plush Ewok from back in the day. But I didn't have a problem with them. I kind of liked the idea of the little dudes, you know, beating up the stormtroopers. I know where it PO'd a lot of people, but I didn't mind it when I was 12. I would have been 12 when the movie came out. In fact, on my birthday, we went and saw Return of the Jedi at the Cinedome 6, which no longer exists. All right, new releases campaigns. I'm not going to do yet. I'm not going to do that yet. Let's turn that off for just a moment, because I did want to talk about a few new things that have popped up in the den recently. Jarrett Keene, good dude, friend, sent me one of his latest books, Decide and Survive, The Battle of Gettysburg, art by Mike Anderson. So this is kind of like your an old-fashioned choose-your-own adventure book. You can see here, turn to page 59, there's the end. Something went wrong. Here we go. There's one of your options that you could do. And so, now it is for kids. I was reading it yesterday, and actually I managed to make my very first choice led to an ending. Although I did survive, because it basically meant I didn't fight in the Battle of Gettysburg at all. So, you know, that is one way to survive war, is to not get involved in it. But it does a pretty good job. So I rolled through for a while and did finally end up not being in the battle because I was helping a school teacher. And by the way, your character in this is 12. Age I was when I enjoyed Ewoks. He ends up helping a school teacher who's working as a nurse, bandaging people up. So I missed the big battle. But it does give you some nice little bits of information about the Civil War, kind of sprinkled through. And then at the end, you know, you actually get some history, the background of the war, the numbers of people, the Union states, the Confederate states. You get the Gettysburg Address, the residents of Gettysburg, information about the prison camps, you know, and stuff like that. And I throw it out there for you. And here you can get some pop culture, films you could watch, things like that. I throw it out there because if you got a kid, especially interested in the Civil War, but not even necessarily, you might want to check this out. I'm almost positive you can find it on Amazon. 99.999% positive you can find it on Amazon. It's good. It's well written. I had fun reading through it. I'll read through it again because I'd like to see what some of the other options are, for actually getting more involved in the battle. But it's good. It's good. And I think he's got some more that he's working on. And I think maybe I know he's working on a story for Heavy Metal, the new Heavy Metal magazine. And I've reviewed his Kid Crimson books here before. So at any rate, you might want to check that out. Getting close to Christmas time, good size. That could be a stocking stuffer, or, you just wrap it up for a kid. And I'm going to probably, when I'm done reading through it and all that, I'm going to probably see about donating it to the school my daughter works at. She's kindergarten, so they couldn't read it, but seeing if a fifth grade teacher might want it on the shelves or something like that. So it's in the hands of kids. They're going to get more out of it than I will, ultimately. We also had showing up this week, I hit the comic shop. We got a new X-Men facsimile. So this is number 12 in this particular series that kind of goes through the Dark Phoenix saga and such. I don't know if they're stopping at doing 12 of them or if they're doing more. Oh, dude, Saturday morning lineup on ABC. Check it out. We get Vindicator / Guardian in this way too. Oh, dude, they did a Choose Your Own Adventure for a lot. I got the D&D ones sitting on my shelf back there. I got a few of those. Yeah, I remember adapting some of that. So what is this ABC? We got Fawns in Outer Space. We got Super Friends, Richie Rich, Scooby and Scrappy Doo. Everybody says they hate Scrappy, and they always did. But the dude who invented him says, I hate to break this to you, our ratings went up when Scrappy Doo showed up. So a lot of you out there, you're lying. You did like Scrappy Doo when you were a kid, and you don't want to admit it now. In all honesty, I didn't. I wasn't even that big of a Scooby-Doo fan at the time. We got Heathcliff, we got Plastic Man, and Thundar. And I've reviewed the Plastic Man cartoons, and they are freaking rad. And dude, Thundar is just awesome. So we got that facsimile from DC. We got Action 252, first appearance of Supergirl, and obviously this is because they're working on that Supergirl movie. Dude, like I said, there's a lot of these movies I'm just not that into, but if I keep getting rad facsimiles out of it, I'll take it. I don't care. There's Congo Rilla. Gotta love that. And just another. Let's see. Oh, I see. I thought he was giving Lois a smack, but he was just sort of pushing her out of danger. So we got those facsimiles, and I know that Finn's the Spook. He's not on here, I don't think, but he was showing this off on X. We got Savage Sword of Conan reforged. Now, what does this mean? What it means is they're taking the old Savage Sword of Conan. They're re-putting it out in magazine size, and got a little glare there. There we go. It's color. It's in color rather than black and white. Now look, I love the black and white. I got no problems whatsoever with the black and white. But, hey man, you're getting some classic stories in new magazines. Amazing art from some of the best there ever were. So I'm down. Oh, yeah. Tower of the Elephant. I was actually just reading that in one of the big treasury editions. Let's see. Come on, where's the elephant-headed dude? There he is. But come on, I want. Oh yeah, there you go. There you go. The space elephants. What the? Stuff is so good. Yeah, so this is number 1. So they're putting these out. I don't know how long it'll keep going. It's from Titan Comics. I hope it keeps going. I hope it keeps going. Because I got a lot of Savage Sword of Conans, but I ain't got them all. And, you know, I'm probably getting rid of some of the normal comic book size stuff to make room for other things. But the Savage Swords I'm holding on to, because that was the first Conan that I ever read in my life. I used to be able to pick those up from like 7-Eleven. I got it on the newsstand. Even after I stopped collecting comics, I was still grabbing Savage Sword and Conan Saga, which were reprints, I think. Okay. Also, we got a box. I don't want to show the old address, but we got a box from Super 7. It's kind of difficult to do an unboxing where you're not looking down at what you're doing, but let's see if the kid can... Whoa! Let's take these out of here. Yeah, okay, I gotta put it down. I can't do it one-handed. All right. First you, and then you. All right. Freshly unboxed Super 7's new wave of Micronaut figures. We got Force Commander I love that they put the little like Transformer style deal back there. Although sadly, you don't get the little piece of red plastic for reading that thing. But we got Force Commander, the sort of good opposite to Baron Karza, and we got Microtron, diminutive robot assistant, with a couple little accessories there you can put on. Very, very cool. I think I'll probably do a full review on these and take them off card and kind of compare them to the last wave as well. That video actually did pretty decent for me. But yeah, those showed up this week. Very excited about that. And I got to say, I think I ordered them maybe 2 weeks ago. Something like that, when they first sort of showed up. So pretty quick delivery on that one. That Guardian figure that I got was pretty quick too. He's sitting back. You can kind of maybe see him back there, top shelf of that bookshelf, standing next to Superman and Superman. Anywho, I did get a couple other old things delivered this week. This version of Iron Man's armor, because it was on the Big Bad Toy Store does a sale. They're doing daily deals, and this thing was pretty cheap. And that's one of my favorite armors. I had mentioned this guy before, but I finally got him out of the box. There's the 70s TV Spider-Man, sorry. Oops, there we go. You can see it's all, a lot of it's in the eyes, but you got the belt and you got the web shooter bracelet on the wrist as well. I need to get a good pose for him. And this just showed up yesterday because, again, it showed up for about $10 on eBay. And I'd been kind of looking for it. Beta Ray Bill. This is Toy Biz. Because I'd looked at the Marvel Legends, and it's like a later iteration of the character where it's just sort of dull and boring. And I'm like, I don't dig that at all, man. I want the full effect, the Walt Simonson look, you know? Let's see if I can get in front of the window there. So it's like $10. I'm like, oh, yeah, why not, man? Because it's, you know, same basic size as the Marvel Legends stuff. So, yeah, he showed up yesterday, and I got to say, as bulky as he sort of is, he stands really well. I value that in these figures when they're not falling over constantly. That's a big deal for me in this day and age. Yeah, dude, I'm grabbing just characters in that size range that I'm just a big fan of. I'm not really trying to complete collections or anything like that. I'm just grabbing the stuff I dig. Let's look at some coming attractions. This was announced. I saw it from a channel, I don't know what you'd call it, on X, Preternia. Pre-Eternia. Pre-Eternia, I guess it would be. I'm sure the Eternia is referring to Masters of the Universe. Talks about action figure stuff. New wave of G.I. Joe classified retro 6-inch figures has been revealed. You get a female Crimson Guard. I don't know if that was in the cartoons or not, but might have been. Might have been. I remember the one with where they're in the other dimension where Cobra rules, and they have the female Cobra troopers that are like loyal to the Baroness, and I'm like, wow, because they're not wearing a lot of clothing, frankly. I'm like, whoo, something weird going on in the Baroness's house. Any rate, you got Crazy Legs, who people are kind of laughing because of the screaming face, but I mean, that's like what he looks like in the art. And Bump and Zap. So I resisted the G.I. Joe classified stuff for a very, very long time. And then the Retro Scarlet was on sale at Amazon. Like, all right, what the heck? I can check it out. And I might show those off in a later stream or something. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool. I go, I might grab a couple of the original characters that I liked and actually owned. I try to give myself boundaries. And so I have a Rock and Roll. I'm looking for Stalker. I want Snake Eyes and Grunt for sure. Those are some of my absolute favorites. But Zap could get in there for sure too. Bazooka Dude was pretty rad. I think the only one past that original wave that I might grab is Doc, because I did have that figure. In fact, I still got him way up there. You can't see him. Dude, do I dare? Do I dare? No, because I got to take. Let's see. Got to take the image down. Yeah, I don't think I can do it so you can see it because of the light. There's the G.I. Joe sitting up there. In fact, Doc is in the front row. Not too far from that Ultraman that's hanging there. And you see a few other of the shelves I have of crap. Now, can I get that back in a good spot? Oh, that's not too bad. All right, that worked. Anyhow, so Zap, yeah, pretty cool. So I probably am trying to get him. The prices are pretty good. And I do like they're in the same scale as those Marvel Legends ones. So I can kind of put them all together on a shelf at some point. They'll work. And I also saw, and I don't have official images, so I'm not going to show images off on these because I don't want to take photos people have taken. But MarvelousNews.com talked about a new wave of Marvel Legends Spider-Man retro cardback figures that are announced at MCM London. Spider-Man 2099, Uncanny Spider-Man, who's basically Nightcrawler in a Spider-Man costume. Spider-Man / Venom, The Owl, Hypno Hustler, and Cardiac for pre-order October 29th, so Wednesday of this week. And I did see also, where's Man of War? Oh, Man of War, I didn't see it, brother. Sitting in a power outage with, dude, I'm sorry to hear that. All right, well, I hope it stays on. You get a little fun out of it, dude. And Raimi says he always wanted a team-up comic book, Beta Ray Bill, U.S. Agent, and War Machine. Yeah, dude, U.S. Agent, I'm looking to grab one of those too. I'm a fan. I liked what they did with the character in the Captain America comics. They gave him some genuine kind of character growth, as he tried to get into the boots of Captain America and learned a little bit, about, maybe lost some preconceived notions. And, I know some of that stuff has sort of a comic book writing wise, there is a left-wing bias to some of that stuff. There is. Different people handled that better than others. Right. But I thought the story of John, what was his last name now all of a sudden? John Walker was really good. And it seemed like they screwed with it a little bit when he went into West Coast Avengers. But I have not read all that, although I'm really close to having the entire run of West Coast Avengers. So I'm looking forward. That might be something I do, like a weekly video going through those issues. But at any rate, U.S. Agent with G.I. Joe. That'd be kind of cool to be able to set those up, right? So we'll see. So at any rate, October 29th, those Spider-Man retro ones are going to be up for pre-order. At Hasbro, I would assume. And on the 28th, I just saw this pop up. It's this is from McFarlane. It's an Iceman figure, I think, that's based on art that he did. It's red platinum, though. And what I've learned is red platinum in McFarlane world means you ain't getting it. Look for it on eBay later, because it ain't happening, baby. Which bums me out, because they're going to do a gangbuster figure, which I would dig. And it's the one out of that wave that's red platinum, which means I ain't getting it. So, oh well, that's life. There's also going to be a Sentinel 2-pack from the Gamerverse line sold exclusively on Hasbro Pulse. And there's going to be an Emma Frost in diamond form as a Target exclusive. And I got to be honest with you, of all the stuff I just talked about there, I know Spider-Man Venom. The rest of it is, and I know the Owl. The rest of it's like Greek to me because it comes from after I stopped collecting. But for those who are into it, I don't have images yet. They'll probably be dropping in the next few days, so maybe I can show some off. You know, but I hate when it's after the fact and it's maybe too late to even get it. But we'll see. Toy News International has announced that McFarlane Toys, speak of the devil, is doing some 7-inch deluxe theatrical editions of characters for 2026. There will be a Brandon Routh Superman, a Christopher Reeve Superman, which I will definitely be interested in, a Henry Cavill Superman, a Millie Alcock Supergirl, a Jason Momoa Lobo and Lobo's Bike, a Melissa Benoist, or is it Benoist? Benoist? I'm not sure how you pronounce her name. Her Supergirl from the CW series. And this is the one that I enjoyed. A Jack Nicholson inspired Joker. Inspired, which means Jack don't sell his image cheap and we ain't paying. So they're going to make somebody in the Joker costume who doesn't necessarily look all that much like Jack Nicholson, at least not enough to get them sued. So don't get real excited about that one. I think they did. Who are the dudes who do the friggin' crazy expensive ones? They did one that does look like him, and they paid for the likeness. But yeah, Jack don't come cheap. So Cardiac was a cool Spider-Man spinoff character, says Raimi. Yeah, I figured it was. He was, within all that. But yeah, I didn't recognize the name of the character. You know, it's funny. Like if you started at the beginning and rolled through, you could do like one Spider-Man character release a month for probably 20 years and never run out. I mean, think about it. You got Spidey and Peter Parker, and you got various iterations of Spider-Man. You got MJ, you got Gwen, you got Harry Osborn, and of course the Green Goblin. You got J. Jonah Jameson, you got Robbie. I mean, I'm not even talking a lot of super characters at this point, but they're characters. And then you got all the villains, and a lot of Spider-Man was villain of the week, and he had multiple series. Like, dude, you could. Oh, Hot Toys. Yeah, Raimi. Hot Toys is exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah, and what about Bob? Yeah, why don't we have figures based on the movie? What about Bob? No. Yeah, Bob's, I don't know, man. I got to think that dude's image is probably a little cheaper to license, but may not sell as well either, so they may not want it. Now, I talked about this last week. Batman, the 1966 Batmobile. This is from McFarlane, which I think it scales to those 66 Batman figures he did that are like, I think 7-inch, 6 or 7-inch, 6-inch, I think. At any rate, it's sold out everywhere but GameStop. $76. And yesterday I checked and it was still on GameStop. So if you really want this dude, you might be able to get it if you go to GameStop. But it could even be sold out by now. I have found that frequently I managed to pick up the McFarlane stuff at GameStop when it sold out everywhere else. Sadly, not the Jaina from the Wonder Twins figure. That I didn't get. And the only one I've seen on eBay is from Australia. So I don't know what happened with those. But maybe like old Spidey 77, 78, it's going to show up all of a sudden. You can get these on Amazon now. I don't know what happened, but at any rate. But you can get that. $76 though, so I didn't need it. I also saw that Hasbro and Mattel are splitting the K-pop Demon Hunter toys that are going to be out next year. Mattel getting dolls, action figures, accessories, and playsets. And Hasbro doing plush, electronics, role play. And role play would mean like, life-size swords and things like that. And board games. Maybe role-playing games too. I don't know. So obviously, this is done pretty well, and it's getting some toys, and we'll see how popular it is with kids. They keep saying kids don't want toys anymore, but if anything can do it, this probably can. Doesn't look like they've wanted a lot of other stuff that's come out recently, but this is new, so that's kind of interesting to see how it'll do. I don't think I'd be getting any of these, but who knows? Mondo, Real Ghostbusters, 1/12 scale. Now, I don't know how they pronounced it in the cartoon. I think it's actually pronounced Soin, Samhain. The first time I ever saw it, I said Sam Hain, but I think it's Soin is how you actually pronounce it. From the Real Ghostbusters cartoon, very cool villain character. I think this is kind of maybe a re-release, but they're calling it like the Halloween exclusive. So it's going up for sale on Halloween. It's going to remain available until November 3rd. There's another image of him holding sad little Slimer because he can control ghosts, and he was turning Slimer against the Ghostbusters. That's a good face sculpt, though. That's really nice stuff. I dare say, and you look at that face too, if you made some of those larger foam, you could probably sell those as Halloween decorations. I think they could. So anyways, $135 though. So that baby ain't cheap. Raimi says that episode gave him nightmares when he was a kid. Yeah, I saw it when I was a little bit older, but I do remember seeing it. The other one I remember from that series, that was such a long-lived series. They did fantastic with it. That's one that I probably should try to do one of these days, some kind of review. But I remember the Headless Horseman one where he was on a motorcycle, and they did do Cthulhu as well. So that's kind of cool. Lady Windland says, yeah, I saw quite a few demon hunters at the school. Oh, at the school fall carnival. Yeah, my daughter's school, they had their fall carnival, their Halloween carnival. Why do we have to pretend? I love it when they used to call it the harvest thing, and we're in Las Vegas. There's no harvest in Las Vegas. I mean, other than, suckers coming here to bet, but we're not really celebrating that. Anyhow, so that's coming out on Halloween till November 3rd. So if you got $135, hey, Finn's made it. Cool. If you got $135 to spend, you can spend it on that. Oh, and there's another image with the other figures. No, those are not included. So sorry, you'd have to buy those separately. But there you go, Real Ghostbusters. This is a good series. Oh, the other one I remember was when they went to Hollywood to consult on the making of the Ghostbusters movie. Because you see, these are the real Ghostbusters. Bill Murray and those guys were in a movie that was based on their lives, right? So that's why these guys are a little different. But see, it's the movie that's wrong. It's the cartoon that's real. I remember loving that even when I was like a teenager. And I remember, oh, that's very clever. I like that. You come afterwards, but you're like, no, we're the real deal. Don't believe that silly movie. We're the real deal. You got to draw a line somewhere, Fins. Oh yeah, you do. And I've looked at some of that stuff too. And I've looked at some of the just the Ghostbusters figures based on the movie, and they look great. They look great, but it's like, thankfully, they're typically a little more expensive, and you'd at minimum want to get 4 of them. So even if they're kind of affordable, you're probably still in for $100. And it's a lot easier to sort of go, yeah, I can resist $100 for something. $20, you go, well, it's $20. It's not that bad, but $100 you can resist. But here's one you cannot resist. I threw this one out here because it looks like a great stocking stuffer, and we are getting close to Christmas, believe it or not, folks. From Super 7, it is the little Yip Yip alien dudes from Sesame Street, plush, $17. I mean, dude, it's cute. Come on. And who doesn't love, you know, yip, 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 yip. Great stuff from my childhood. But so those are up for sale now. It's actually like wave 3 of Sesame Street plush. I hadn't paid attention to the other ones, but I'm like, she's not listening, so it'll be okay. I might grab one of those for my daughter just for a fun little Christmas gift. From SH Figuarts, I know it's probably Figuarts, but they're doing some Ranma 1/2 figures. They're going to have Ranma in both his boy and girl iterations coming April 2026. And in June of 2026, Shampoo. These are based on the new anime series rather than the old, although I have heard that the new anime series is very much like the old one in design and things like that. So they don't look like radically different. Oh, the two-headed Muppet on Sesame Street. Yeah, that's a good one too. There's so many. I love old Sesame Street. I grew up on that. I think I've told that story that I would watch it when I was probably 3 or 4. I would watch it every morning on like PBS. And then on the weekends, they would play every episode that they'd had on that week in like a block. And I don't know, was it an hour show or something? So I don't know if it was half hour, but I would sit and then watch all of them over again on Saturday. I don't know if it was Sunday too, but my mom was like, you were obsessed with Sesame Street. I was. It is all true. I was obsessed with Sesame Street. Ranma 1/2 I was not obsessed with, but I did enjoy the original anime, although not the little perverted priest character. I had enough of him very quickly when he showed up. I initially watched the dubbed versions in the US, and I'm like going, I don't think he showed up as often, and I think I know why. But when I watched the subbed versions of Japanese, it's like, oh, okay. So at any rate, they were an hour. Yeah, so think about 5 hours. I would watch 10 hours of Sesame Street a week when I was little. You can't say that didn't friggin' have an impact on my brain. Had to have. So these are coming out in 2026, Ranma, and they'll probably have some others as well. I saw this announced from Frazetta Girls. It's available now at their site. It is a t-shirt with Frazetta's art for Mad Monster Party. Limited quantity and time to get these. And in fact, at the moment, medium, large, extra large, and 4X. So the 2X and 3X, look, let's be honest, all of us retro geeky guys, a lot of us are falling into that 2 to 3X area. So those sizes go quickly. But this is available now. It is $46. So I was like, sorry. I'm not into Mad Monster Party enough to want to pay $46 for this. But if it is one of your favorite Halloween specials, you might want to check that one out. I saw that Fantagraphics is reprinting their hardcover editions that collect the entire 50-plus year run of Charles Schulz's Peanuts. Apparently landing in time for the holidays, they say. I want to say the books run about $50 a piece. So there's going to be a lot of them, and it's going to be very expensive. But if you are in love with the Peanuts, or if there's a particular time period you want, there you go. So those are coming out in time for the holidays from Fantagraphics. A couple new things that I saw. These are Kickstarters, both of these, that I'm going to talk about. This is from Top Secret Press. Sword of Justice #2. The art looks pretty cool in this one. This is a black and white image from issue number 2. It will be in color, but this is the black and white art. And this is a piece of color art from issue number 1. Obviously, you're going to be able to grab, usually you can grab both of those at the Kickstarter to catch up. It's a 20-page book, so not real long. $5 to $8 for a PDF, $8 to $14 for a print copy, depending on which cover you choose. I want to say there's 3 different covers you can choose from. This is coming in March of 2026. It's on Kickstarter. Sword of Justice number 2. You might want to check that campaign out. And this one, I'm probably in on this one. Sword of the War Monster from Shannon Eric Denton, Jeffrey J. Marriott, and David Hartman. That's David Hartman's art. It is described as a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons, Conan the Barbarian, Masters of the Universe, Frank Frazetta, and Ozzy Osbourne. Over 100 pages of monster mashing, wizard slaying, sword swinging mayhem. And I love Hartman's art. I backed his other project here just recently. And then this kind of popped up, and I'm like, why didn't I see this? I mean, just with the name Sword of the War Monster, I'm already into it. $15 for a PDF, $25 for a softcover book, $40 signed. So $25 for a 100-page book is pretty damn good. And I'm going to grab that one. Rainey says, oh, wait. Price for tea. That price isn't for, peanuts. Yeah. And I'm not positive on that price. I was looking at the original productions of those Peanuts books, and I think $50 was the price for the hardcovers. And I think $30 was soft covers. So I'm guessing $50, but at this point, it could be higher, just so you know. Oh, and my wife has tortoises moving around she needs to go deal with. So there you go. And then finally, Film Masters is releasing on December 16th, a little late, a limited edition Blu-ray of House on Haunted Hill, which has kind of become my traditional Halloween night movie that I'll put on while the kids are coming to the door and trick-or-treating. So weird, right? Some years you'll get like 2 kids the entire night, and then another year you'll get like 30 of them. Bizarre how it works. Used to be a lot more regular when it was my generation, because we were denied candy most of the year, and we were not missing out on Halloween. No way. I guess it's going to be a slow chase. Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. Tortoises can move real quick when you don't want them to. And when they're feeling like in danger or something, they'll go to the entrance of the burrow, and they'll stand there for a minute, and then all of a sudden, they shoot down that burrow. They like belly slide. They use their legs to just push, and they belly slide down the thing. It's ridiculous. And then like dust will poof out of the thing like it's a cannon or something. Anyways, so that's coming from Film Masters. House on Haunted Hill Blu-ray. I don't know that I need a Blu-ray of this thing, but it has become sort of a traditional Halloween viewing for me. I like to start October on Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman because I got an old VHS copy of that. And I like to end the month on The House on Haunted Hill. It's a goodie. Okay. What else do I have here today? A few little reviews I thought I'd throw out because I had some time to watch a couple movies. Sort of listen to them while I was working. Full of snapper turtles. Yeah, you want to watch out. Although, if you get your finger right in one of these tortoises' mouths, they'll bite, and it does not feel good. Even though all they mostly eat is just little leaves, by golly, they could bite. So I 3 horror movies, sort of horror movies I watched this week I wanted to throw out there. The first one is called Black Moon from 1934. It is pre-code and involves voodoo and zombies on the island of St. Christopher is where they set this thing. It's really kind of interesting. It stars Jack Holt, Fay Ray, Dorothy Burgess, Cora Sue Collins plays the little girl, Jack Holt's daughter in this thing. It's really very, very cute. Clarence Muse, great black actor, plays a character named Lunch. Madame Sul-Tae-Wan, black actress, plays this woman. I'll explain what she is in a minute. But Lawrence Kreiner, black actor, playing the high priest. I'm bringing up all these names for a reason. But so basically, Dorothy Burgess plays this woman who was born on the island of St. Christopher, and she was raised by a nanny, played by Madame Sul-Tae-Wan, who indoctrinated her into voodoo. And her uncle, who was raising her, did not realize this until she was a teenager. She would take her out at night to these rituals where she would witness human sacrifice and all sorts of stuff. So basically, she was groomed kind of into this cult, okay? When he found out, he sent her away to private schools, college, and he thought she was over that kind of stuff. She ends up marrying Jack Holt, who's like a businessman. They're living, I believe, in New York. And she's begun longing for the islands. They have a little daughter, and she's, but she'll be like playing the drums and stuff like that. And he's decided, I'm going to send her back to the island for a visit to her uncle, get it out of her system, and she'll be better. Her uncle gets wind of this and sends somebody who says, do not send her back. Do not send her back. There will be trouble. That guy is murdered. And Jack is kind of like, maybe I ain't going to send her back. She's like, oh, I'm going back. I'm going back. Well, she goes back with her daughter to this island and immediately falls back into the voodoo. That she is sort of like a focus point for the folks, who reside on the island, the black residents of St. Christopher. She's like a focus of the voodoo religion there. And so Jack Holt ends up getting over there as well. He's kind of following because he knows there's trouble happening. And it's really interesting. And it goes places that pre-code movies will go. And you kind of don't know who's the good guys and who's the bad guys a little bit. There's a little bit of that kind of what's going on here. And how far is Dorothy Burgess's character going to go? I did a little bit of I'll do a thing on Twitter when I'm listening to these movies while I work, where I'll call it like a Monday morning matinee. And, as the movie goes, I'll make a thread basically on X talking about the movie, showing some images from it as I'm listening while I'm working. And I did that. So you could find it on X. If you go to like my profile, you can find what I was writing about it, but really quite good. It was really quite good. And it went there. I'll put it that way. It went there. And that's some nice cinematography as well. And that's a really good image right there. I watched this yesterday. King of the Zombies. This is horror comedy. 1941. Stars Dick Purcell, who you might know as Captain America in the old Captain America serial. Joan Woodbury. Matten Moreland. One of my absolute favorite comedians. Marguerite Whitten. Lee Whipper, who plays the butler. And this is kind of why I was mentioning names from Black Moon. Madame Sul-Tae-Wan is in it as well. And Lawrence Kreiner, played the high priest in Black Moon, plays a doctor in this one. Basically, it's like horror comedy with a little spy element to it, but you want to watch it for, there's another image from it. It was originally going to be a Bela Lugosi thing, and it didn't work out. Those two are why you want to watch the movie. Matten Moreland is funny as hell in it. Marguerite Whitten, too, is very funny. You got they crash on this island. There's a mansion. There's zombies, which is, in this case is like hypnotized people. If they're going for that kind of zombie concept. Here you see where Manton has been sort of hypnotized into being a zombie, even though he's still making little smart remarks the entire time. They couldn't take the comedy out of him, even by making him into a zombie. What was interesting to me, beyond the fact that it's just kind of a funny little movie, is that, at the time, you had your mainstream films, and then you had what they at the time called race movies, which means, movies that were made for a black audience or maybe an Asian audience or a Jewish audience or what have you. And, you watch movies made for a black audience with an all-black cast, and you have, obviously, people playing all sorts of roles. You watch mainstream, if there's black actors in mainstream movies, very often they're playing a servant kind of role, like one of the guys, a Pullman guy on the train, or, a butler or a maid or what have you. Sometimes very funny lines, but they're in that kind of role. This one, Manton Moreland is kind of the star of the movie, and you notice his name is just a little bit more prominent there than Dick Purcell's and Joan Woodbury's in that opening. It's really kind of his movie. He's in a lot of the Charlie Chan movies playing Baltimore Brown. I love him in those. And he's good in this. He plays a role in movies. And when he did vaudeville, that's kind of similar to Lou Costello. It's very similar to Lou Costello. But this movie, Lawrence Kriner's playing a doctor, right? Marguerite Whitten, she's playing a maid in this house, but she's got a lot more lines than they would typically give. So you're going, this one's almost like a combination of a movie for a white audience and a movie for a black audience. And the black characters have a lot to do and are probably more interesting and fun than the white characters in the movie, to be completely honest. But it's really kind of an interesting sort of a bridge movie in a lot of ways. But I really, 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 really liked it. Remy says, I got a novel on Charlie Chan and the real cop who he was based on. Really good. Yeah. It's a good series. And I know people get upset because two of the Charlie Chans are played by Swedish actors, but they do a really good job and they're fun movies. Now King of the Zombies did get sort of a sequel in 1943 called Revenge of the Zombies. Manton Moreland is in it, reprising his role. You have John Carradine. These are like Germans who are trying to build a zombie army to conquer the world. Good stuff. And I think I've seen it. I can't remember 100%, but I'm pretty sure I've watched this movie. But King of the Zombies I've watched a few times. It's a fun little comedy. It's a B movie, but it's a fun comedy. This one was another kind of surprising movie. It's definitely a B movie. Does not have a lot of big names in it. John Loder, Nancy Kelly, Otto Kruger's in a few things. It's called Woman Who Came Back from 1945. And it starts with this woman who's coming back to this town. She had to leave under a bit of a scandal, right? And she's on this Greyhound bus. And this old woman stops the bus mid-route and wants to get on with her dog. They won't let the dog on, but she gets on anyways by herself. The dog chases after the bus. But it's this woman who claims to be a witch who was burned at the stake 300 years ago in this town. And the bus ends up going off the road, crashing into the water. And the woman, who's played by Nancy Kelly, is the only survivor. And she's looked at as sort of a jinx. And she starts believing that she has been possessed by this witch. And it runs it's an interesting little film. I did also a sort of a X matinee on this one too. I loved this little scene here with these kids in Halloween costumes. I thought it was really cool. I'd love to have some of those masks. Look at that one. I think it's like an elephant. It's horrifying. Some of these masks, Fins, back me up. Some of these masks probably would be great as blow molds. I wonder if anybody could design those. We also get a really creepy doll in this one at one point. And so it's a little bit like gaslighting, but not quite, if you know what the gaslight story is. But it's this woman kind of going mad, thinking she's been possessed. She thinks the dog is the familiar of this witch, and it keeps showing up, and it's attacked a few people. But it's not a great film, but it's pretty solid, and there's some good images and some good moments in it. There's another one from it. So some really good moments. A Woman Who Came Back, 1945. All right. Two more little reviews I want to do. I'll do them relatively quick. Oh, I got to get him out from underneath some stuff. I finally got to read the Conan the Barbarian number 25 with the painted art by Alex Horley, written by Jim Zub. There's an image. Really good. I really liked it. It is a one-shot, so it is not within continuity of anything else. So easy to read. You're not coming in mid-story. And it's sort of about this weird guy showing up at the palace of King Conan. So it kind of starts off, you see the older Conan there. And he's got a gift for him if he can prove worthy. And it sort of runs through Conan's life and the things he's seen and the things he's done. And yeah, there is some nudity in it for those who are looking for that and for those who are not. There's a little image of him fighting the frost giants. So beautiful art. A very cool story. I really did enjoy it. And everybody keeps telling me, buy those Conans. I'm like, yeah, I know. Oh, Ramey's got to go. See you later, Ramey. You have a good day. I'm almost done here. I also got to read Jacqueline Jones. It's about a female police officer. It was interesting. It's written and drawn by Carrick Esquivel, with also work done by Jesse Hansen, Jeremy Cox, and Johnny B. Girardi. It is... the art reminds me a little bit of some Golden Age comic type stuff, where it can be a little off on proportion and stuff here and there. You get some really good panels. You get some that are a little bit wonky. Jacqueline Jones is kind of like a Xena warrior princess. She's big. She's, she is not like a petite little police officer. And she gets into some real scraps in this thing. Noses are being bloodied and things like that. And she's ultimately going up against this woman, the czar of crime in this city that she lives in. There is some very cool stuff in here, man. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It goes into sort of the troubles that, women have on the force in this day and age, and he dedicates it to women police officers in San Diego. But it was good, man. There's there's a lot of violence in it. It's got some inspirations from Dick Tracy. So some aspects of that in it, but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Jacqueline Jones. It had some really cool stuff in it in terms of some of the giveaways. There's a little kind of a pinup done of her. It's an interesting book, man. It is an interesting book. Great covers, by the way, from what's his name? Des. Cover. Oh, there we go. Des Taylor. If you've never seen Des Taylor's work, now you have seen Des Taylor's work. A very cool style, and he's done some stuff with DC characters and things. Good artist. So I enjoy Jacqueline Jones. Hopefully there'll be a number 3, coming out at some point. I'll definitely grab it. I will definitely grab it. Kind of reminiscent of a series that I reviewed a long time ago on this channel, called Tinseltown by David Lucarelli. It's based on a little bit on his mother's experiences as a female cop. Although it's set in the 1920s, where this woman who wants to be a police officer but can't get into the regular force ends up getting a job as a security guard at a Hollywood movie studio. And she's trying to work her way into proving she can be a cop, and all that stuff. Good series, good art. Really enjoyed that one. So this is a little different. It's a little more, action adventure, some more gunfire and fights, and it's a little less realistic, but I enjoyed it. So there you have it, boys and girls. What do? We unboxed some Micronauts. We talked about some various iterations of good old Conan the Barbarian. I highly suggest you grab both of these books if you haven't already. Talked about a couple of these. Talked about Jacqueline Jones. Talked about the business and some old spooky movies. I'm going to leave everybody with this. I just saw this online and I loved it. 4 of the greats of horror. Yeah. Tor Johnson. I'm calling him a great of horror. I don't care. Tor Johnson is okay by me. Looking at a Walt Disney Donald Duck comic book. I just thought that was fun. So, folks, that'll wrap it up for Dad Live in the Den on October 26, 2025. Dude, we're just a little bit away from Halloween. I hope everybody has a great week. Good week for watching spooky movies, reading spooky comics. I don't know, playing with spooky blow molds, whatever it is you like to do. It's a good time to do it. Don't overindulge on the candy, but indulge a little bit, for crying out loud. We're getting ready to go visit the Las Vegas farm. We got one to get some cool baked goods and pet some animals. So that'll be fun for us. I hope you have something fun planned for today. Coming this week, Monday, Justice League America number 43, Justice League Europe number 19. Almost done with the Justice League videos. On Wednesday, I am reviewing I Was a Teenage Werewolf. Fun little flick, to be honest with you. And on Friday, Halloween, dropping a review of the Fang Face cartoon. Wanted to round out the werewolf month for me with a fun one. And Fang Face actually is a pretty damn fun cartoon. So that's coming up on Dad's Den. Hopefully, I will see you for those videos. You can find me online. I'm on X. I post nonsense most of the day and happy to chat with people there. And if you really look hard, you can find my email out there. I'm not that hidden. So that'll do it for today. We will end with God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have some fun out there this week, and I will see you hopefully again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye, folks.